Welcome to the next episode of Simon Says, Let's Talk Business on Business RadioX. This is your host, Al Simon, with Sandler Training. And Simon Says, Let's Talk Business is a show where we spotlight high-performing business professionals. And we do this in order to sharpen our skills, learn new ideas and concepts, share best practices, and get to know really smart people. So listen carefully. Take notes. Look for their contact information at the end of the segment so that you can engage with them. As always, we will conclude with a sales tip from me in our Ask Al segment. And I'm pumped because today I get one of my good friends and clients as my guest, Jan Heybroek, the CEO and founder of MDoutlook. Jan, welcome.
Thank you, Al.
Good to have you on the show. It's been a while, huh? I mean, I've been promising to get you on the show, and it was just busy.
I've been counting the days, Al.
Yes, well, it's probably been marked on your calendar forever, I'm sure, stars and all that. Yeah. Okay, MDoutlook, it's a great and interesting company, and it's exciting to get a chance to spotlight it today. And I guess maybe let's talk about how you did it, right? Why did you start this company that you call MDoutlook?
Al, thanks for having me on the show, and we've really appreciated the collaboration over the last year or so. And I'm very pleased to be here to talk about MDoutlook. I started MDoutlook in 2007, really with the purpose of providing better insights to pharmaceutical companies, life sciences companies, and to create a 360 view of complex diseases. Okay. Focusing on oncology, hematology, rare diseases. One of the challenges for many of the life sciences brands are who is treating that disease? Why are they treating it? How are they treating it? What are the reasons for the treatment decisions? And we felt that by engaging physicians in a more open, more transparent way and sharing back the insights that we gain from those physicians, we would actually learn more about the market, and that's what our story has been.
Okay. And you are a medical professional yourself, right?
Well, I always say that, yes, I went to med school, but I'm not a doctor. Don't ask me for medical advice because I wouldn't be the right advisor for you. Right. But I know enough to be dangerous, yes.
And you have assembled a team of medical experts.
Correct. Yes, we have a team of MDs and PhDs that are our analysts. They really understand and have treated patients, so they know how physicians are thinking. They know how they are want to engage, how they are working, and that expertise and knowledge is something that we bring to the table. So we're not just market research and insights professionals and business consultants, but we really bring that clinical thinking to our clients.
Okay, and your clients are the large pharmaceutical, not don't have to be large, right? But pharmaceutical companies, I guess. And what is the value that MDoutlook brings to them?
Yeah, so our clients range from truly large blue chip pharmaceutical companies that are part of many people's investment portfolios to the really small organizations that have one drug that they want to bring to the market. Okay. In the pharmaceutical research, a lot is riding on one drug. We know that a lot of people complain about high drug prices, and yes, it can be a challenge. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you have to realize that out of 10,000 opportunities, only one will hit the market, and of the one that hits the market, of every 10 that hit the market, only 7 will make back their dollars.
Wow.
So the funnel, if you think about a funnel, and your business is a lot about thinking about funnels.
We talk about funnels a lot in sales.
You can just think about that conversion rate, right? If you go from 10,000 to 7 out of 10 actually making a return back. So it is critically important that they get the decision making around launching that product, that those are the right decisions.
Right.
And that's what we help our clients make, is better decision making, because they truly understand what is happening in the market.
Yes, and in these critical diseases, especially oncology, the whole oncology area, and we all know there's no cure for cancer, but the information that you bring to the table, the thought leadership you bring to the table, helps people to have better choices on treatment and so on.
Yes, by having better insight, by measuring, you can make better choices. We all know that is really important.
Yeah.
And one of the things about oncology that people really don't appreciate much is one, it's a disease of your own body. Two, you've got 60 plus organs. So when you talk about cancer, you really have 60 plus diseases. And even if you think about something like breast cancer, you may think it's one disease, but it's actually probably about 13 diseases. So how do you handle that complexity? And we're trying to provide kind of insight into that complexity.
My goodness. So how'd you get here? I mean, you started MDoutlook because you had this great idea and it's awesome. But were you always an entrepreneur, or what was your journey like?
I've always been entrepreneurial, but I think there's a big difference between being an entrepreneur and being entrepreneurial.
Okay. Right.
I think the difference really is about your ability to manage and deal with risk and uncertainty.
Yeah.
And I think, the last 12 months with COVID have taught us, all of us, how to deal with uncertainty. And it's not for the faint of heart. We know that too. So I have, in my career, gone from larger to smaller companies, from being Fortune 500 companies to being entrepreneur-led. And I appreciated that journey, and I appreciated kind of the ability to work with a team very closely and really see the results of your labor as a team and corral around it and be celebrate that success. And in large organizations, it is so much more difficult to actually see your contribution to that success and have a corralling moment with the team around that. And that was part of, I think, the inspiration. The other part of it is I had been on the precipice of being an entrepreneur twice, didn't make that decision for lots of different reasons, and I was about 40, had a 6-month-old son, and thought, this is the perfect time to become an entrepreneur.
When you have a 6-month-old son?
Not right, but not quite. Yeah. But yes,
okay.
It was... you have to jump, and sometimes you just jump and you swim, and that's kind of... So I had the opportunity, I took the chance, and it's been an incredible ride for the last 12 years.
Yes. Well, obviously, I mean, so you started in 2007, all right, and then there was a recession right after that, and then, like you said, the last 12 months. So yeah, like most entrepreneurs, you have had the highs and the lows along the way.
Yeah, and there's a lot of lessons to be learned in that. Yeah. And when you read the management books or the books of, that entrepreneurs have put out, and you think about the lessons that they share, you take them on kind of intellectually, but you don't take them on emotionally.
Yes.
And I think living through the ups and downs that an entrepreneur lives through, you realize that it is about staying the course, bobbing and weaving with the waves, because you are going to have some headwind and you're going to have some tailwind, but you got to stay the course. So resilience and the ability to course correct, sometimes pivot along the way is really, really critical. I did a session with about 12 entrepreneurs on Friday, and we talked about course correcting and what actually is important in those course corrections. And what we learned there is you have to make yourself vulnerable. By making yourself vulnerable, you are going to be open to learn from others. When you're an entrepreneur, often you don't have people that you can talk to. So finding fellow entrepreneurs, counselors, advisors, and having an open conversation about the challenges that you've got and addressing them is absolutely critical. In our group of entrepreneurs, one of the things that we talk about is always, entrepreneurs are kind of opinionated.
Are they?
Yes. You're looking at one, so you know that.
Well, you're looking at one too.
Yeah,
so
exactly. We've had that conversation for sure. But I think part of it is telling someone what to do versus sharing an experience. So sharing what you have done in similar situations and letting the other person realize what that is, what is relevant for them, and picking that up is an important technique that we use a lot in the entrepreneurial forum that I'm part of.
Yes.
And that way you actually start to get to a deeper sense of what it makes to be a good entrepreneur, what it makes to be a good leader.
Well, in our audience is pretty much people who are trying to plug into to expertise, and they, by definition, almost they're lifelong learners, looking for new ideas, new ways to do things. And I think the best entrepreneurs are never closed-minded, right? Always learning from others, and it really is important, like you said, to build that team of mentors and what's the word I'm looking for? People that you surround yourself with.
Yeah, life coaches. I mean, it's life coaches, but life both as a business person and your own life, because that's the one thing I think that I started to appreciate, is that in the entrepreneurial journey, you're going to involve your significant other. You're going to involve your family. Much more so, I think, than when you're really working for someone else. Yes. You may bring your worries at home and your frustrations home and your successes home, but it's still you're working for someone else. So the internal drive to be successful and to not let that spill over into your family affairs is really difficult.
Do you feel the pressure to kind of support your employees, the people on your team? Do you feel that pressure palpably?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So we may have 40 associates that we're working with, but we really know that those 40 associates all have a family that we're supporting, and that support structure is incredibly important, because if that support structure isn't the right one, the associate is not going to perform.
Right.
So we try to do a lot in terms of that. We have a fairly generous PTO policy, and one of the things I always tell every associate, every person that interviews for a job is, you don't live to work, you work to live, and we are there to support that work to live approach. We want to work with people that are professionals. No infighting, just be professional. You show up and you deliver what you agreed to deliver.
Right. You give your best, and then you stop and go home and engage with your family and be a person, right? Yes.
Yeah, and flexibility, right? Because life happens as we are on that journey, and so you may have to go to the dentist. Well, that's fine. I know that professionals are going to make up the time that they spend on something else, somewhere else. So we don't, let's say, count the hours. We really look at the output of each of the persons on our team and have frank conversations if it's not what it needs to be, and we celebrate the success of anybody in the team.
And I know that's not just lip service that you're talking about. I've been working with your team for just over a year now, and it's definitely that way. You care about those folks, and there's been no turnover in that group, which is amazing. I just jinxed you, didn't I? I hope not. But
I'm hoping that I'm hiring today, actually. So no, nice. I don't think you've jinxed me.
Okay, good. It's like the TV, the TV analysts on the golf programs, right, where they say this person hasn't three-putted in the last, 36 holes or whatever, and boom, they three-putt. It happens every time. All right, so let's go back to the pharmaceutical. What you call biopharmaceutical space. What have you learned about that in the last 12 to 14 years?
Do you have an hour?
Yeah, okay.
2 hours?
Give us the high points.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is a incredibly talented group of people that you work with. Mm-hmm. Most of them have graduate degrees, so they're very smart people, very analytical, and they have at their heart the care of the patient, and what they do is really driven by that care for the patient. And one of the things that is really challenging in the life sciences space is that you're, as a physician, you're not purchasing a product. You're maybe prescribing it, but you're not actually physically paying for it. So it is kind of a convoluted purchase decision as opposed to normal business to business. Right. So there's a lot of mechanisms around that purchase decisions that speak around, providing insight, providing knowledge, providing clinical, data to make the right decision. And that is it just makes for a very complex marketplace. So one of the things that I've learned as well is that the life sciences industry really works by big data, and we call it real world evidence. So finding ways to capture what is happening in the real world. And one of the challenges is, okay, well, I know now what has been done, but do I know why it has been done? So marrying the why of that real world evidence, and the deeper understanding, that still is something that we as an industry haven't figured out.
Really?
And because you journal, and so you know why you've made some decisions. But if I only measure the decisions that you've made, I don't have access to your journal. So how would I know why you've made those decisions? And that's part of the thing that we do within MDoutlook, to provide that why, the deeper kind of understanding of people's decision making.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So that's what you mean by big data, right? Really being able to garner and to analyze the data so that it's real information that can be used well.
Yeah, it goes beyond information. It goes actually to what we would say actionable insights. Is that you have you understand why something has been done, and therefore you can act upon it.
Yeah, which is really important when you're talking about the diseases that you're working with. Yeah, and it's interesting what you said about pharmaceutical. I mean, there's that term big pharma that has kind of demonized out there in the social world, and I think the average person thinks of these companies as being so impersonal. But you say they care, right? They really care.
Absolutely. But it's really difficult because it's a very regulated environment too, right? So, think through regulations and get to know the people, and you'll see that they're absolutely passionate about improving cancer care, and they show it through the posts that they will put on LinkedIn, where they've run another 10,000, 10K, or organize another marathon because they're supporting the disease. And that is really, that really goes to the heart. Often it is a personal relationship that they've got because they've got a loved one that is suffering from that disease. There's a personal drive for why are you focused on cancer?
Yes,
it's not a fun place to be, right? It's a challenging
so important.
place.
What you're doing is so important, and it must be satisfaction for you to know that you're doing good work, right? You and your team, you're doing good work.
Yeah, I think so. It is. It is. Yeah. It's. We have had some of our market research studies published. We've presented and had scientific poster presentations at the American Society for Clinical Oncology, which is the professional organization of cancer treaters.
Okay.
So the fact that we can actually contribute to kind of a better understanding of that disease is powerful. We're harnessing kind of that social power or social knowledge of a disease and how to treat it.
Okay. I want to step back a second, Jan, because your story is so interesting. I mean, you were not born and raised in the U.S. You were born and raised in Europe, right? And
correct.
Then at some point you came to the U.S. So, what are kind of the life lessons you've learned as being a sort of a transplant into the United States and the business environment here?
Again, do you have an hour? No, you don't. There are many lessons learned, but I think the critical lessons learned is that we're 98% the same, and we always tend to focus on the differences because they're kind of interesting. But the reality is we're very much the same. We're driven by the same values, the same desires for ourselves, our families, etc. So embrace that, harness that. In terms of business, there's little things like in our country, in the Netherlands, you are on time. That is really, really critically important. That's not always the case in all of the different countries, right?
Yes, right.
We're very I'll use an old term, WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get.
Yeah, haven't heard that in a while.
Yeah. But that tells us the gray hairs that we've got, right?
I don't see any gray hairs. There are none.
Okay, check out the pictures. But but we're very transparent. We're kind of direct and blunt. And if you're able to appreciate that, it makes for better business, because you kind of cut the BS, right?
Yes.
But I realize coming out of that environment is that there is a lot of personal affection and communication that needs to happen. So you have to establish a rapport.
Yes.
And so that's one of the things that you learn. Another thing is that because you go to an environment that you're unfamiliar with, you're going to take everything at face value, everything, and they're going to take you at face value, and that's actually really refreshing. If you meet 10 people and you have no idea about their background and where they come from and the accents that they've got have no meaning to you, you're going to approach everybody really, really fresh.
Yes. Because
and you're in the business of understanding psychology and understanding behavior. You know that we form an opinion in 0.2 seconds, 1 second.
It's not long. Yes.
And if you don't have that, just think about how refreshing that actually is.
Yes. And you and your team, because you have a worldwide presence, you really get to interact with lots of different kinds of people.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. Absolutely. We have a team in India that does a lot of engineering work for us. And one of the emails that they sent early on, they said on a couple of points that we had asked them to work on, we have doubts. Well, in when you think about that in the U.S. perspective, when someone says, I have doubt about something, that means that, there's something big happening. For them, it was just a question. They just had questions. If we would have, taken on the doubt word, we would have gone into a far different direction than just understanding that actually they just had some clarifications that they wanted to get.
Yes. So it's really about minimizing the number of disconnects that you have with people, because that's about rapport, right? Making sure that there's understanding in both directions.
Yeah, and vice versa. We will be saying things that they go like, huh?
Yes. And so it's looking for the huh, and then making sure that you smooth it over, have clear communication. And I was talking about this issue with one of our clients the other day, because that not blunt way of talking, a lot of times salespeople like it when the prospect is nice but yet wishy-washy, because it's not a friction-laden conversation. But you don't know where you stand. So I'm with you. Let's be blunt. Let's do that. Let's talk it out and make sure we understand where each other is on that.
Yeah, well, you've spoken to us about the upfront contracts, right?
Yes.
So having an upfront contract, I think that is the power of a lot of business conversations, is setting expectations and making sure that you fulfill those expectations, and then have a wraparound about, did I meet those expectations?
Yes.
And we learn that those are good presentation practices, but they are really good business practices. They're good conversation practices.
They are, aren't they?
They are.
Yeah, always. People know where they stand. They know what your expectations are. You know what theirs are, and then you can plan out whatever it is you're planning out.
Yeah, and you can have a clearing round about, did I not do something that I promised, or were you expecting something that I didn't deliver on, or the opposite? And
right.
that's helpful.
That's a great life lesson learned. Thank you for sharing that, Jan. So this is Al Simon with Sandler Training, and you're listening to Simon Says Let's Talk Business on Business RadioX, and our guest is Jan Heybroek, the CEO and founder of MDoutlook. And he has shared so many insights, but like we said, we could take another couple hours and really explode this out. But if anybody wants to learn more, Jan, wants to engage with you, what's the best way to do that?
The best way would be to go to our website, MDoutlook.com. And if you want to talk to us directly, just send an email to info@MDoutlook.com. And, my team will get back to you, and that would be the best way to get a hold of us and learn more about us.
Okay, so the email address is info@mdoutlook.com. The website is MDoutlook.com.
Perfect.
All right, very good. Thanks for being here, Jan.
Thank you for having me.
This has been great.
I appreciate it.
And so, as always, we'll conclude our show today on Simon Says Let's Talk Business with our Ask Al segment, where listeners have sent in their questions on sales to be discussed here on the air. And if you would like to send me a question you have on sales, send it to al.simon@sandler.com. And you just might get your question read and answered here on the show. The question that I've selected today to address came from a listener, obviously, and it says, in 2021, what are the best platforms to leverage for prospecting? I assume that, I shouldn't assume, but I can maybe guess the context of this question. It might be because we've been through 12 months of pandemic, and everything has changed in business, and so has prospecting changed? And I think the answer is very clearly yes. Most definitely it has, and maybe even permanently. But that's probably good. There's probably good reasons to change the way people prospect permanently. And there's now, prospecting means you're looking to grow revenue in some way. So most people think immediately of getting new business, but there's also the ability to get more revenue by leveraging existing business, what we call wallet share. So if an organization or an individual is is buying a certain amount of stuff from you, but they also buy other things in your space from other people, that means you don't have 100% of their wallet share. And so account management is one of the most important ways to prospect, by keeping your customers happy and by being a little bit bold in terms of asking about other things they spend money on and seeing if there's some things that you can do to get that business. So we call that account management, but most people think of account management as simply keeping accounts. But in our world, account management means growing accounts. But of course, there is that major portion of prospecting, which is getting new business. Very important to get new business. And I think if you're in the B2B space, business-to-business space, LinkedIn is absolutely the only way to go in terms of social media. Not the only way to go, but it's the major way. It's the most important way. These days, LinkedIn has become the de facto way of connecting with new people and exchanging ideas and also for referrals and introductions, which, by the way, is still the number one way to get new business, which is referrals and introductions from current accounts, from strategic alliance partnerships that you have, networking partnerships that you have. Everybody knows everybody, which is what LinkedIn, by the way, is based on, the 6 degrees of separation. And so it's tapping into what other people know, who other people know. And also the other part of that is connecting others yourself, so that you're not just always taking, you're also giving. So it's giving to get. So I would suggest that using LinkedIn to post content, to review content and like and comment on content, to engage with people in a way. Now, it's a long-term game, Jan. I mean, this is one of the biggest mistakes I see on LinkedIn is people connect with somebody and immediately try to pitch them. And that is the worst way to do things. Connect with people, start the conversation. It's a long-term game. No pitching allowed. That's just for baseball. Let's keep it that way and engage with people, like and comment on their posts, and see when they read yours and engage with yours, and then that starts the conversation. B2C too. LinkedIn has a lot of functionality that in the B2C world is also worthwhile. And then there's digital prospecting, which is a way to use email and other digital ways, but it needs to be very, very customized. You can do blast emails. That's one way to get new business, but it's such a low connect rate. But if you have a target market and you are customizing your emails and not spamming people, that's another good way of doing it. I get asked all the time, is cold calling still relevant? Well, yes and no. It's still true that if you think cold calling is going to work, or if you think cold calling is not going to work, you're right. It's pretty much it. So, but most people are not doing cold calling these days. But if you do want to go cold calling, if you do think cold calling is the way to go, please talk to me, because there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it, as with most things. As with most things. So that's the Ask Al segment today. What's the best way to prospect in the world post-pandemic? Although we're not really post yet, are we? No, we're not. This has been Al Simon with Sandler Training, and the show is Simon Says Let's Talk Business on Business Radio X. Our guest, Jan Heybroek. I'm getting it all messed up all of a sudden. Jan Heybroek, CEO and founder of MDoutlook. Thank you, Jan, for being here.
Thank you, Al.
And tune in again next month for our next show. And as always, good selling.